Story 1. If at any point you list a job as entry-level and require any experience at all, it results in a significant consequence. Story 2. It would be illegal for children's cereals not to contain a toy at the bottom of the bag, and the toys must be large enough to prevent choking hazards. Story 3. Endless election funding and timeframes. Restrict funding to public sources only and limit election cycles to short periods, such as 2 or 3 months. Story 4. Presidents pardoning family members, close business partners, personal friends, and anyone who worked for them in any capacity. Story 5. Lying as a politician. If you are caught in a provable lie, you should be immediately removed from office. Story 6. I would make it illegal for anyone not to send me $1 per year on my birthday. It's not a lot per person, and even with a 12.5% compliance rate, that would still amount to over $1 billion for me. Of course, I would use some of that money for myself, but realistically, I wouldn't spend most of it on things I would actually use. However, I could use that money to do good things, and that amount every year could help a lot of people. Story 7. Billionaires. Does it stimulate the economy when wealth is spread rather than hoarded? Story 8. Convicted felons holding office is already a reality, but I would enforce stricter regulations. Story 9. Car crash sounds, honking, and breaking glass on radio advertisements should get the station shut down immediately. Frustrates me every time. Story 10. Gambling. My mother spent her and her husband's retirement funds and sold all her jewelry. They lived in poverty during the last years of her life. Story 11. Honestly, abusing others in public is unacceptable. Keep your opinions, thoughts, beliefs, and views to yourself. Arranged marriages and child brides are serious issues. Genital mutilation is a violation of rights. Honor killings should be condemned. Child abuse and neglect, including parentification, must be addressed. Animal abuse and neglect need attention as well. Child beauty pageants raise ethical concerns. The requirement of experience to obtain a job, especially for those with qualifications in the industry, is frustrating. Cold calling and scams are prevalent issues. The rising costs of rent and food are concerning. Story 12. Sending out an email stating that your order has shipped, but when the user clicks through, you have only printed the shipping label. Story 13. Depriving anyone of housing, food, medical care, and other basic necessities is unacceptable. It would be beneficial if abusers, businesses, individuals, or politicians who intentionally harm people by obstructing access to these essential needs faced consequences instead of being praised. Story 14. The Trumps will never be heard from again, which would be punishable by what would make the Spanish Inquisition seem like child's play. Story 15. Insurrectionist traitors are being allowed to run for president despite the specific prohibition in the 14th Amendment. Story 16. Political donations to politicians on a campaign trail or any monetary assistance to politicians for any reason. Story 17. I would make it illegal for the president to be elected without taking a mental functioning test. Story 18. I would make it illegal for individuals who participate in an insurrection or provide support to those participants to hold any public office. Story 19. Reselling anything at a higher price. I wanted to see a concert, and it was sold out, but I contacted some people who said they had a few extra tickets. Sweet, right? Wrong. I drove for an hour to the venue and called the man to meet up. He arrived and told me the price was now $120. Mind you, the original price was just under $40. I tried to negotiate, but he didn't want to sell for any cheaper, so I said forget it. Let's go get food, cakes, and go shopping for some Legos. That turned into an unexpected shopping trip with my friends to the big city. Story 20. Not going to therapy is concerning. The number of men who need it is astounding. Just as some countries have mandatory military service for all citizens, we need a similar requirement for men in the United States, but focused on therapy. They are hurting, and this contributes to the challenges we face. Story 21. Anything that puts children in harm is concerning, and beauty pageants are a good example. Children are paraded around, looking like miniature adults, and it seems as if some individuals sexualize this. It is unacceptable. Story 22. license plate covers, limo car tints, large SUVs, non-essential vehicles in the downtown area, changing the price of a service plan midway through a contract, unsolicited mail, disposable electronics must have a clear repair path for goods sold, condos built for resale rather than for living, gambling advertisements. Story 23. Deepfakes will only improve. Any deepfakes of individuals should require written consent from the subject. Story 24. Social media and screen time for people under 16 should be limited to 1 hour per day. You are not doing your child any favors by placing an iPad in front of them for hours every day. Story 25. I would make lying on public platforms, such as news stations and media, illegal. Before Reagan signed the Fairness Doctrine, stations had to demonstrate integrity and be worthy of the public trust to have their licenses renewed. Thank you for that, Ronnie. Story 26. Lawmakers and politicians should not have any influence over healthcare decisions regarding care. Keep your greedy hands off our bodily autonomy. Story 27. Renting homes can involve buying and renting apartments. However, we need to prevent people from purchasing homes to rent them out as speculative assets. Story 28. There are numerous issues to address. Using "I smell weed" as a pretext to infringe upon someone's Fourth Amendment rights, political lobbying, property tax, income tax, and estate tax are concerns. Law enforcement violating citizens' civil liberties, restrictions on abortion, banning books, aggressive architecture, and other measures against homelessness are problematic. Arresting individuals for cannabis or psychedelics, and the circumcision of minors raise serious ethical questions. The candidacy of felons for the presidency also warrants discussion. Furthermore, glue traps for rodents and child beauty pageants and child marriages are additional sensitive topics. Story 29. Lobbying, dishonesty in office, mudslinging, misinformation in the media, intentional disinformation, and not acting on evidence for fear that it might jeopardize a political career have resulted in a significant overhaul of justice. Story 30. I would make it illegal for anyone over the age of 75 to run for office. If you cannot remember what you ate for breakfast, you should not be in charge. Story 31. Politicians on both sides have become disappointing. Perhaps we should return to the old ways, when individuals were reluctant to enter politics because it meant losing money. They often did what they had to do before returning to earn a living. Cutting their salaries in half might reveal how many still wish to serve. Story 32. Felons and individuals with a mental disorder are prohibited from holding public office. Story 33. Property taxes mean you never truly own something if the government requires ongoing payments. Story 34. I would make it illegal for anyone to run for public office without a psychological and medical evaluation that has a pass or fail result. Potential candidates cannot run if they fail either evaluation. Story 35. Billionaires and the trend of skinny jeans with ridges cause equal harm to society. Story 36. Mechanisms that exploit dopamine to manipulate consumer behaviors include dark user interface design patterns, such as slot machine refreshes and achievement badges. Story 37. Being rude, demeaning, or aggressive to people working in customer service is unacceptable. However, defining what exactly falls into those categories requires more effort than I am willing to put in at the moment. Story 38. Corporate campaign contributions and super political action committees. I would also advocate for the death penalty for any politician who accepts money or assistance in any way from any foreign entity. Story 39. Unlicensed parenting. Individuals should undergo proper training before being allowed to procreate, similar to other human service professions. Story 40. In China, there are laws that make domestic violence illegal. However, many individuals remain vulnerable to this issue. The police or related authorities often mediate incidents based on family relationships. Measures to detain domestic abusers are taken only when the severity of the abuse significantly impacts the victims' lives. It was hoped that victims of domestic violence would receive the protection they deserve, following a recognized priority system. Story 41. I would nationalize all insurance, not just healthcare. I would also make it my goal to eliminate all rent-seeking behavior. Story 42. Selling goods at excessive markups over production costs. If a 200% profit on an item isn't enough, then so be it. Story 43. Child beauty pageants are often controversial. Many people believe that it is inappropriate for young children to wear adult-like clothing, such as push-up bras and tight shorts. Critics argue that the only individuals who support this practice are judges who have questionable intentions. Story 44. Political merchandise, especially if it supports a certain side, particularly when the money is going to that side's pockets. Story 45. Politicians often lie, with rare exceptions when it is genuinely called for in the public interest, such as national security. Story 46. Publishing misinformation in any form, whether digital, print, or video, requires retractions if it occurs accidentally. Repeated abuse can lead to a low credibility rating with clear labels on all produced content and eventually result in a ban from the platform. Story 47. Diced tomatoes on sandwiches. Speakerphone, music, and FaceTime in public. If your phone makes a sound that you don't silence within 3 seconds, it will result in a penalty. The term influencer, in any context, non-accredited institutions of higher education, children on or anywhere near my lawn. Story 48. Accumulating wealth above a set maximum and designating hoarding wealth as a disorder in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. Story 49. Large agricultural companies are using pesticides near schools, hospitals, and residential areas, contaminating our food and water supply. Story 50. Alcohol has claimed the lives of several of my family members due to drunk drivers. However, I believe we should legalize all substances and allow natural selection to take its course. Story 51. Advertising prescription medicine. How about we let healthcare professionals be the driving force behind whether we should take a drug? Doctor, I was thinking about taking Max Profit a lot. Well, are you a postmenopausal woman with compromised kidney function? No. Okay. How about I get to be the doctor today? What do you think? Sounds good. Story 52. Animal agriculture causes devastation to the environment and leads to the mass suffering and death of animals. Story 53. Kids and toddlers using iPads and smartphones before the age of 17 is concerning. I would say having a flip phone for emergencies is acceptable. Story 54. Trading stocks or other investments while employed in Congress, the presidency, or the Supreme Court and for a specified number of years after leaving. Story 55. Allowing any elected official to have a felony or bankruptcy is unacceptable. We want our representatives to reflect our hopes for our children. Story 56. I was thinking about sneezing or farting in public, but maybe I'm getting a little carried away. We would have to build a lot of prisons. You're in front of the judge. I sentence you to 10 years without the possibility of parole for illegal flatulence. Now go and sit and rot, dirtbag. Story 57. Citizens United. Super political action committees. Only individual campaign contributions are allowed, and nothing higher than 10% of an annual salary at minimum wage in a state. Congressional members trading stocks. Any property owned beyond one property will be taxed at an increasing rate of 10%, starting with the smallest property and going up to the highest. I would like to eliminate property companies and real estate investment trusts. There is a housing shortage, and the median house price should not be 5 times the median annual income. Music and sports event tickets cannot be resold above the original sale price. They must also be individually owned and operated. Ticketmaster is ruining live music entertainment. Story 58. Whining either be a part of a constructive solution or remain silent. The existence of a two-party government leads to politicians becoming millionaires. All government officials should participate in the same healthcare, sick leave, and vacation policies as the average citizen who elected them. There should also be a salary cap for these officials. They should aim to make a difference, not to get rich, which applies to professional athletes as well. Parents who pass on bigotry, racism, sexism, and those who expect society to raise their children are contributing to societal issues. Story 59. Corporations and foreign nationals are buying American real estate. Real estate should only be available for purchase to U.S. citizens and permanent residents, and no individual should be legally allowed to own more than 3 houses or plots of land at one time. Story 60. I would make it illegal to profit from anything that threatens human life. This includes healthcare, pharmaceuticals, and weapons. You can still start a company, but it must operate as a nonprofit. Story 61. Private campaign donations. I know Joe Schmo donating $5 to his favorite candidate isn't the problem. It's Jeff Bezos donating $500 million to whoever will make him the most money. All campaigns should be publicly funded. Story 62. Not giving me $1 if I asked for it. I mean, if everyone contributed, they could really help a brother out, and what is $1 anyway? Story 63. Many places have stopped providing paper receipts. I would like a receipt but do not want to share my personal information, such as my email or phone number, to obtain one. I would be fine with a digital receipt if there were a way to do it without disclosing my information, perhaps using a contactless option. Story 64. I would make political parties illegal. Say what you want, but in my view, if you align with a party, your interests are no longer with the people of your country. Story 65. I would not tax anyone under 25 or over 65. Make your money and keep your money. Those are years you won't get back in physical energy or lack thereof. Story 66. Indoor and outdoor cats. Find ways to enrich your cat's life indoors without harming wildlife, and keep them safe from cars and other animals. Story 67. You wouldn't be able to run for office if you are currently facing a criminal sentence. How is that not already established? Story 68. Restaurants selling items that contain more than 1,500 calories, unless advertised as family or share-style items. I am going to the Cheesecake Factory tomorrow, and I am amazed that they have meals that exceed 2,000 calories. Why are there children's menu items that contain over 1,000 calories? Story 69. Raising or adding any form of tax to anyone who makes less than $250,000 per year is prohibited. All new forms of taxes on income or purchases of any kind will be banned. Story 70. Being rude or loud in public is a concern. Many people could benefit from a reminder about appropriate behavior. Story 71. Online sports betting has resulted in a loss of approximately $450 billion for Americans since it was legalized in 2018, raising concerns about its predatory nature. Story 72. After reading the comments, I am amazed at how many people, likely Americans, do not support and would repeal protections not just established by the Constitution but also by the Bill of Rights. Story 73. It should be illegal for healthcare companies to claim that something isn't medically necessary when a patient's doctor clearly states that a patient needs a particular treatment. Why are you denying this treatment and not paying when a doctor provides proof that it is necessary for the patient to live a normal life? It seems that healthcare companies believe they know more than the patient's own doctor. Story 74. If you are working in government, you cannot buy or sell stocks. You cannot own or partially own a company that does business with the government. Story 75. News outlets spreading falsehoods, even if they refer to themselves as an entertainment outlet like Fox News. Story 76. One must be completely open to run for state or federal level elected positions. Tax returns, medical records, and similar documents must be transparent, and you cannot obscure your holdings by placing them in your spouse's name. Story 77. Blind boxes, both in video games and toys, raise concerns. While I may consider an exception for trading cards, I need to research the topic further. In general, I believe we should not allow children to engage in activities equivalent to gambling to obtain the toys they desire. Story 78. It wouldn't matter. Whatever I was upset enough to make illegal, people would do it anyway. I know because I do it anyway. Story 79. Glass packs on cars and revving motorcycle or car engines contribute to high vehicle sound emissions. I would classify it as a felony. Story 81. Corporations having legal personality. 2. Political action committees. 3. Presidential pardons. 4. Forced pregnancy. 5. Abstaining from voting in elections. Story 81. Blocking government-elected officials from owning stock, allowing felons to run for office, and preventing corporations from donating to election campaigns raises concerns about the integrity of government as a system of the people, for the people, and by the people. Story 82. The use of Title IX to prosecute individuals through schools has raised concerns. People often use various methods to avoid trials in order to profit, leading to an environment where schools become venues for exploitation rather than improvement. Currently, many aspects of work include elements of human trafficking, which some individuals accept as a normal part of earning a living. I would mandate that any form of exploitative employment or coercion result in the complete forfeiture of all revenue, along with mandatory incarceration for anyone convicted of such offenses. Story 83. Money in politics involves political officials owning stocks and asset portfolios. Stock buybacks and hidden fees are prevalent issues. There is a focus on profit from the privatization of utilities and natural resources. Additionally, pricing strategies can create the illusion that buying in larger quantities saves money, when in fact it is more expensive. Astronomical interest rates should be capped. Story 84. The overly lenient sentences for cold-blooded murderers and rapists are unacceptable. They have ruined someone's life, and theirs should be forfeited as well. Why should we care for someone so despicable, especially if they contribute nothing to alleviating the suffering of victims? A life sentence will surely serve as a deterrent, and even better if it leads to capital punishment. Story 85. Fake sale prices. I once took a screenshot every few days of a mattress being sold on the website of a major national mattress manufacturer and retailer, and the price stayed the same for nearly a year. The only thing that changed was the name of the sale. There would be one sale for 4 or 5 days, then it would be extended for another few days before a new sale with a different name would start. The sale price was, in fact, the regular price. At the same time, I would ban the use of a product's list price when comparing sale prices to regular prices. No one sells products for list price, so it is not a valid comparison and exaggerates the degree of discount that a customer receives. It is fundamentally dishonest. Story 86. Holding office for more than 8 years, from a city councilman to a senator. Implement term limits for all positions. Additionally, I would make it illegal not to include wages in job postings. Story 87. Interaction between the United States and any other nation. No travel, no trade, no communication, nothing. Let's see how independent they truly are. Story 88. Politicians of any rank should live in social housing and receive social security and pension for life, as well as access to public health services. Story 89. Businesses can funnel unlimited amounts of dark money into politics. I would overturn Citizens United. Story 90. To disrespect President Trump is concerning. I understand that there needs to be some room for political dissent, but opposing Trump does nothing to help America or the world. Story 91. Having a personal net worth of $200 million means you receive a trophy, and we name a park bench in your honor. However, you will be taxed at 100%, with a dedicated Internal Revenue Service agent assigned to ensure you are not concealing additional funds. Story 92. Lobbying allows government officials to participate in the stock market. Alcohol is also a related topic. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.